Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Call It Anything podcast. I am Jack, joined by my guest,
Mr. Solis.
and we are back here today with another episode covering wrestling as always. But before we get into that, as always, sir, how have you been?
I've been all right. I've gotten over this weird cold I had. Tomorrow's the last day of instruction at school, and things are picking up. How are you, Jack?
Doing all right as well, sir. Just been working.
Working, and occasionally enjoying the graps.
Occasionally, not as much as I should be.
I missed the AEW Dynamite from last week, which was like 4 hours long.
Oh yeah, I caught that one.
That's good.
Yeah, that one was pretty good. I was catching a bit of the one yesterday.
Yeah.
But I was just like too tired to like continue through with it, you know?
Yeah.
Like I was just like, I don't really want to sit through 4 hours right now after work. I'm tired.
Goodness. Welcome, Jack, to adulthood. Oh, yes.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't really feel like sitting through this, especially since I was like falling asleep through it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like,
Yeah, I watched Money in the Bank twice because I fell asleep during one of them.
yeah. I was actually working and I didn't know Money in the Bank was starting earlier, but then I remembered, of course, it's the West Coast. They always like to start those ones earlier.
Yeah.
So like the only reason I found out that it had started was because I went to the Wikipedia page
Yeah.
to like I think it was to see what the Dominic match was gonna be, like who challenged
Uh-huh.
him, and then that's when I saw the results for the women's Money in the Bank, and I was like, oh, that's great. I get that spoiled for me.
Dang.
Um, and then other than that, I mean, not a whole lot of wrestling has been watched. I will admit my spreadsheet is very small, with a good portion of it being Noah. Like I mentioned in the last episode,
Interesting.
I'm surprised
Yeah.
how much I've been watching Noah this year compared to other promotions.
Yeah.
It's either been that or like the occasional New Japan show for like Goto's defense.
Yeah. Don't tell me anything because I haven't seen anything, and all I saw was on the schedule that this Sunday is Dominion. Don't tell me anything. But I'm gonna take it. It's gonna be my first show of the summer where there's no big work or project lingering. I'm gonna watch Dominion.
Let me see if I could. I don't even know what's happening on Dominion. I don't even know who are the champions right now. That's how out of it I am.
I think the end of the I don't know if the finals for the best of the Super Juniors will be on that show, or actually if the best of the Super Junior winner gonna challenge whoever holds the title. I think it's Desperado. Again, I can't stress it up. Don't tell me anything, Jack. I hate that you even looked it up. I literally said it 4 times.
I just want to see what's on this card, but it'll be interesting nonetheless.
We're here to do business and talk about the June 10th episode of Evolve on Tubi. We're young. We're it.
Coincidentally, I tuned into Evolve just to see Wesley versus Cappuccino Jones.
Who on earth is Cappuccino Jones?
I don't know, but I saw the name and I was like, why not? Let's see what Wesley is doing in Evolve, since the man has had a greater fall from grace than Icarus.
Wow. What an English major analogy.
Oh, man. But no, we're here to talk about Money in the Bank.
We're not talking about Worlds Collide?
I didn't watch it, so I can't say much about
Nah,
it.
it's okay. All I will say is that it was worth the viewing.
I heard the North American title match was worth checking out.
Yeah, I think the card top to bottom, maybe minus one match, but like, I think even has more matches than Money in the Bank. But yes, sir, we are here to talk Money in the Bank.
The only thing I can tell you about Worlds Collide is that Mr. Iguana blew up.
Certainly did. I was a part of it.
Oh man. But yes, we're here to talk about Money in the Bank 2025. Um, Before we get into the matches, I'll rattle it off for the viewers so they can do the tallies in their head. My dad chose Lyra, John Cena and Logan Paul. Impromptu match chose Dom, Stephanie Vaquer, and El Grande Americano as his predictions.
Your dad picked El Grande Americano?
Mm-hmm. I picked Lyra, Cena and Paul, Dom, Vaquer, and Rollins. And Mr. Solis picked Becky, Cena and Paul, Dom, Naomi, and Rollins.
Yeah, I did.
Very interesting night. And I'll explain the Money in the Bank picks when we get to them.
Right on.
But so we opened the night with the women's one, and I admittedly just told Mr. Solis I missed that one. So I had to come back and rewatch it, and it was a very interesting women's Money in the Bank ladder match.
Let's rattle off the participants. It's Rhea Bloody Ripley, Naomi, Roxanne Perez, Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, and
Alexa Bliss.
Alexa Bliss.
Those are our competitors. A very stacked field, you know?
I agree.
And that's what played into a lot of the predictions between my dad and I, because we were like, well, let's break it down.
Yeah.
They could go to Rhea, but it's not really a believable one because a lot of people are kind of treating her like Charlotte. They want her to be away from the title scene, you know? So we weren't really thinking her. My dad and I were looking at Bliss and Naomi.
Yeah.
And this is kind of ironic, but, you know, we're not trying to spoil things too soon. But my dad and I were looking at Naomi and Alexa Bliss, and, you know, because of how much they were nailing it home with the graphics about, oh, a women's Money in the Bank holder has always, like, it has a 100% cash-in rate. You know, they have yet to fail. So I was looking at my dad, and I was like, if they give it to Bliss or Naomi, I feel like that's when your first failed cash-in happens. Like, that's the two choices you can go with where people won't be too angry, because your other choices of Roxanne, Julia, and Vaquer, you're positioning them as this new breed of talent coming to the main roster, you know, really pushing them as the new faces, you know, coming in to breathe in new life essentially to both divisions. You don't really want them to be having the failed cash-in, you know? And that's why my dad and I, we were like, oh, well, Roxanne is kind of occupied with the Judgment Day. It really comes down to Julia and Vaquer. And even though Julia is my dad's favorite, we were like, she seems more being set up for the U.S. title on SmackDown, leaving Vaquer as our picks as to who we thought would win, you know? That was sort of our logic and thinking with our prediction.
I see your logic. You failed to mention or consider the fact that Stephanie had wrestled in another match earlier in the night.
That's right.
And, like, you know, as strong as they've been presenting her, is she strong enough to win 2 matches in a row? Even on commentary, they were talking about this is actually the third in 24 hours because she had a match on SmackDown the night before. Now, I think everyone in the match was in the match on SmackDown. So, like, even though they're touting her as having 3, everyone else is rocking 2, which is still a long weekend, right? But so, like, when I made my choice, I thought like you. Rhea's been too successful. Then everyone who's really young, I think it's too soon. I mean, you could have given it to Roxanne Perez. That could have gotten involved in the Judgment Day drama. But I picked Naomi because, like, she needed it the most. Like, she turned on her friends. I don't know. This just gives, like, I've wanted her to get something since she came back at the Rumble. You know? She really hasn't gotten anything. She got a tag team title reign that she stole from Jade by turning on her, right? Like, she had a new look, new character. That's why I picked her. I think I seen online somewhere, too, that she was, like, the odds-on favorite. And I was like, and if she did, you know, she can lord it over Bianca, or Bianca could win the title, and then she sneaks up on her and gets it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It, again, just shakes things up. So I was rooting for her.
getting to the actual match, sir, what do you think about it?
It was a ladder match. At the beginning there was this interesting story they were telling right away. It was the veterans and then the young ones. Veterans throwing their weight around. There was maybe some alliance with Julia and Roxanne. Yeah, and some gnarly spots.
Yeah, it was like you said, a ladder match. It kind of disappointed given its star-studded field of participants. At least to me, I was like, it's good, but it wasn't what you expected given all the names in here.
Maybe they were just trying too hard. I'm thinking of like the simultaneous code reds on the very carefully positioned ladders on two sides of the ring. Like you could see them look for each other to like go at the same time. They're like looking for their cue. There was like the Sister Abigail and the Rhea's move, Riptide. Like again, simultaneous and LOL, OMG. We both did a move.
Yeah. Trying to think like what else, but yeah, it's like I don't know. I didn't feel as interested in it as I was expecting. And like it's not to say it was a bad match, but it was like it was okay, nothing too crazy, which is kind of a letdown given Money in the Bank's history, and it led to a lot of discussions with both matches about Triple H because I think Triple H has gone on record saying that he isn't the biggest fan of the Money in the Bank concept, and so a lot of people were like, this really feels like he doesn't want to continue through with this. But it's too popular to get rid of.
I mean, we've seen a lot of ladder matches, and we've seen good ones. And maybe, like, what was missing was there wasn't, like, a real clear threat of any, like, one winning. Like, no one really made an earnest attempt at the briefcase until the end. Like, until Naomi, We'll talk about that more in the men's one. But, like, we were all just doing moves until the next move,
Yeah, and it's funny enough, I know this seems completely unrelated, and some people might look at it like as unrelated and just like looking for reasons to bash on certain wrestlers or like certain promotions. But I actually saw a discussion similar to this about Ospreay and Swerve's match yesterday.
Yeah.
Where, spoilers, sir, but I have to bring it up for the sake of the argument. They go to a 30-minute time limit draw, and people kind of had the same argument where they were like, it felt like there wasn't actually a sense of urgency in this match. It just felt like they went 30 minutes for the sake of 30 minutes,
Yeah, and what's funny about that? The plan was always to go 30 minutes because you can't beat either guy.
Yeah. And then along with that, there was like a sequence that they did that like was really choreographed, and people were just like, I don't know, maybe it's the overexposure to a lot of this type of wrestling, but it doesn't hit the same as what they were saying. Like there was a spot in that whole sequence where it looked like they were doing all that just for Swerve to hit or Ospreay to hit Swerve with an arm drag, and they were like, hey, maybe that would have played out a bit better. But all it was just an arm drag that then got countered, and then you know the typical spots that we see where both guys look at each other when they counter a move and then go to do another move that gets countered. Like it was one of those sequences, and it feels like a very similar argument to the lack of urgency in both Money in the Bank matches, where it's just like they're doing things, but they're not hitting the points that you do those things for.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the best way to describe like my feelings towards this Money in the Bank match, where it just felt like, I don't know, it felt like they were having a ladder match for the sake of a ladder match. They were doing spots for the sake of having the spots and not really doing much to progress the match towards its natural climax,
It was one spot, and maybe we'll think of others. This show was almost a week ago. But one spot that played into the match type and their motivations is when they bury Rhea Ripley in ladders. Oh,
Mm.
and I wanted to make a joke, Jack, that they buried Rhea Ripley. How could they? But that was fun and good. I was like, neutralize the strongest, most successful person out here. You have a bunch of ladders. Let's pile them on her. I don't think they're very heavy at all, and they were very loosely on her. But I thought that was a solid like visual.
Yeah, and then I think there was a spot with Julia and Roxanne where the ladder like wasn't set up correctly, and so like it could have ended a bit
Mm.
dangerously because it wasn't like properly set up.
Hmm. Commentary was in pulling like was pulling an all nighter for this one when they were like pushing the ladder. And you can see the women like scale the ladder down, like they went down a few rungs before it went down. Commentary, Will Wade Barrett on it, going, "Hey, they know that if they stay where they are, they're going to get really hurt, so they're trying to minimize the impact." And I'm like, "Heck yeah, man! Like I don't even mind it that they're avoiding injury because that plays into like I'm trying to make it through this match. Maybe first it's like survive and then it's win."
Yeah, but overall, despite the critiques, I still think it was a good match. Just like I said, not to the level you would expect given the playing field.
But Naomi wins,
Yeah,
and so does Mr. Solis.
yeah. A point for Mr. Solis, and again, not to spoil things for the people, but you heard the predictions at the start, and if you're doing the math in your head, it's looking like a very good night for Mr. Solis. Because trust me, as I was watching this show, all I could think about was all our predictions in the back of my head, and I was like, man, this is a good night for Mr. Solis.
And we agree on a couple of things. So like, um, yeah, the night's gonna play out, and I feel like we agreed on a lot. I can think of a couple places where we differ, but let's move on.
Move on, and we get one where there was a unanimous agreement. Dominic Mysterio versus Octagon Jr. in a for the men's Intercontinental Championship. The impromptu match that started because of Worlds Collide.
Yeah, so at the show, Octagon Jr. was in a trios match versus LWO featuring Lindsay Dorado. What are you doing here? And after the match, the AAA guys win. This is the match with Mr. Iguana, by the way. But after the match, these guys are they're either I don't think they're shaking Rey Mysterio's hand, but they had before the match. He was out there, introducing everyone to the show. They came out, shook his hand, you know, big fans themselves, right? So Dominic Mysterio, he's in the crowd, running him down, going, "So you're a fan of my dad? You're a fan of Deadbeats, huh?" And he gets in his face, and they start pushing, and then they start scraping, and let him fight, let him fight. And Dominic declares, "I'll fight you at Money in the Bank, and I'll put the title on the line." Super clumsy, super awkward, but I'll tell you what. If there was anyone in that building thinking about going and they weren't sure, I mean, that would have hooked me.
Yeah, I definitely liked the segment a bit, especially because I liked the little story that people were trying to find, their headcanons that WWE will later read and then try and act like that was intentional.
That's why I'm not going to watch that unscripted show or that scripted show on Netflix
Yeah.
because they're going to tell any story they want. This isn't being filmed in real time. They're going to go back and they're going to go, "This guy's name is Mr. Iguana. He's incredible. Let's put him out there. Look who they like. We knew it all along. Get out of here."
Yeah, look at this Daniel Bryan guy. We're going to purposely put him down the card, to get the fans to cheer and support for him so that we can insert him in the main event and claim that we planned this all along.
There's more that I want to make fun of, but I don't want to spoil this episode. So,
Yeah,
what'd you think of the match?
I was a bit excited when I saw it just because, there's been multiple iterations of this gimmick, and each time the gear always looks amazing for Octagon Jr. So that's why I was like really interested. I get it. It was an impromptu match, but given before it was a 4-match card, we really couldn't make a little bit more time for the match. Like that was my feelings with it. I was like, couldn't just give it a little bit more time, Triple H. Like You were giving
I
us a
wouldn't
4 match card before this.
I wouldn't have minded if this was a non-title match. For all intents and purposes, Octagon Jr. hasn't done anything of note to earn the Intercontinental Championship. So, like, this could have been a non-title match, which maybe would have opened the doors for a longer, more competitive match that Octagon Jr. could have even won. You know, get one up on old Dirty Dom and his dastardly ways. But like once it's like for the title, when you called and said, Mr. Sleaze, what's your prediction for that random extra match they just added? I just told you so that I didn't spoil the story. I just know the champ's gonna come out with his belt.
Yeah, and I mean it's like barely 5 seconds under being 5 minutes long. It's only 4 minutes 55 seconds. It's like couldn't give it a little bit more time. Did the tag match really have to
For what
be
it's worth,
23?
Octagon Jr. got his, stuff in, made his minutes count, and I like that. We've said this before about like say Mercedes Moné and her variations of the Meteora. She can do it in lots of places from lots of places. Octagon Jr. has a lot of moves that involve like that rotation or like that
Mm-hmm.
twist, if it's off the top rope, if it's over the top rope, if it's he just twists a lot. I'm like, I like that through line of his moves.
Yeah, and I saw some people thinking, you know, saying like, oh, maybe Dominic could work really well in AA and maybe do like a little storyline of him facing off against various luchadors, really going about disrespecting his father's legacy, but it's like, to me, it's like, well, I agree with that. Like, it would be an interesting storyline to run. What's the payoff? Because we know WWE is not letting any of those luchadors beat him for the Intercontinental Championship. So for AA's AAA side of things, it's like, what are you getting out of having him just go and beat all your luchadors?
You know,
Especially because, like, maybe people can come up with different names, but it's like, just to give an example, it's like, oh, he's facing off all these luchadors, and then in the end he loses his IC title to, let's say, Penta. It's like, that's one of WWE's luchadors. That doesn't really pay off the story of facing AAA's luchadors.
this sounds a little bit like how WCW's team in the Invasion blow off 5-on-5 was made up of 60% WWE superstars.
Oh, man. Yeah, so I don't know, but it was definitely an interesting match to see, but just wish I got
Yeah.
more time.
Yeah. It was a teaser.
Yeah, definitely excited to see what comes of it because, man, people have been getting on Triple H's case, and like especially one of the things is the way he's been booking his champions so far is because they're just like they don't want to sound like complainers, but they're like, man, it feels like Dom has done nothing since WrestleMania. It feels like EO was doing really good stuff with Stephanie and Julia and Roxanne on like Raw before Julia moved over. And now it feels
Yeah.
like all she does is appear in backstage segments. So it's like,
I'm not going to say that Dom hasn't been doing anything. He's not defending the title. He is ingrained in a fairly complex storyline. Maybe he's not the guy to hold the title. Seems a bit preoccupied with the dynamics of his with his group.
yeah. But from one Intercontinental Champion to another, we have Lyra Valkyria defending her Intercontinental Championship against Becky Lynch, where the stipulations are, if Becky loses, she won't be able to challenge for this title as long as Valkyria is champion, and if Valkyria loses, she will be forced to raise Becky Lynch's hand and acknowledge her as the better woman.
Mm-hmm.
I was excited for this one, given that I really liked their was it Backlash that they had a match?
Yeah.
I really liked that Backlash match, so I was interested in this one.
I have been increasingly impressed, marginally increasingly impressed. I'm trying to say that it's more than before, but not by much, right? Like I'm growing, like Lyra Valkyria is growing on me. I like all of her quips against Becky. You know what I mean? Like she's got an edge to her. She's sick of Becky. I don't know. It's very believable. Um, and yeah, so was I looking forward to this match? Not as much as any of the others, but I know that they had a good match in Backlash. So yeah, I was interested to see how and where they go for here. To remind viewers, listeners, I did pick Becky to win, so I was on the edge of my seat, wondering if, Becky's gonna get the dub.
Yeah, was definitely interested in how this was going to turn out. I mean, given the stipulation, could kind of make an educated guess, but at the same time, it's like you never know what direction they could go. Oh, who am I kidding? It's Triple H booking. We know what direction it's going to go.
Was there any spots or moments in the match, Jack, that stood out to you?
Um, trying to think off the top of my head. But I don't know. It was one of those matches that kind of happened. I think I described that in like the previous episode. It's one of those matches that kind of happens. Don't have a lot to say about it, but you still kind of enjoy it, you know?
Yeah.
But I can't really think of much. I don't know if I enjoyed this one as much as the Backlash one. Despite it being used to progress their story, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like there was a manhandle slam off the second rope that Lyra kicks out of.
Yeah, I remember that happening, and I looked at my dad, because again, my dad and I both picked Lyra to win. I was like, okay, well, she has to be winning, because if she got hit with that, what are we thinking Becky's going to do to beat her at this point? Because if she loses to a regular manhandle slam, that makes it look kind of weak, because it's like, how do you kick out of the super version of the move,
Yeah.
but go down to the regular one?
Yeah. I think I remember Becky getting like some pretty good moves in, maybe even more offense than she got in that Backlash match. Like Lyra's wrestling circles around her at Backlash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say
There was no awkward fiance at the ringside. That was Backlash.
I will say the awkward part was the finish, because like it didn't look like Becky got a hold of the tights like completely to really
Yeah.
you know do that finish.
Yeah. The camera wasn't in the right place or at the right angle. Michael Cole, again, commentary. The stars of the night, calling her out. She had the tights. She had the tights.
Yeah. Not gonna say I'm mad at the finish. I'm not gonna say I'm mad with the decision to give the IC title to Becky, because it opens a lot of doors for interesting stuff. Yeah. I saw some people thinking, because with Bayley's return on Raw, thinking they're gonna do that match at Evolution 1-on-1, which I don't even know if Evolution was announced when we were covering Backlash.
No, it was announced on Raw. The Raw that was 3 nights ago.
Yeah, so Evolution's going to be happening, and people were thinking Bayley and Becky are going to do a one-on-one there. I think a triple threat with Lyra could be a bit more interesting, at least to start off before you get to that singles match,
Especially since when Bayley jumped Becky, Lyra was completely caught off guard. She was bewildered, you know what I mean? Like, it looked like she wasn't a part of it. It maybe to the untrained eye, it looked like she was distracting Becky for Bayley's sake, but nothing about her face looked like she knew that was going to happen. So, like, I didn't need your help. I'm not going to do an Irish accent, right? And I'm going to get my title back. And then, yeah, triple threat would be interesting.
Yeah, especially because after the match, of course, Lyra's forced to hold up her hand. Becky starts rubbing, salt in the wound, making her do it in every direction of the crowd. And when their backs are turned, that's when Lyra hits a German and the Nightwing to close it out.
You know what? For as blasé as the match was, everything after the bell, so she grabs the tights, which I like. One, I picked Becky to win, so boom, so Lisa's up 2. And then also, we didn't actually beat Lyra. She didn't actually prove to be the better woman or wrestler. She cheated, right?
Yeah.
And so I like that. That's good, because Lyra's still the better one. And Becky's still slimy like her attractive husband. But but she does the like raise my hand, but then she eggs on Jack. I'm on every side of the arena. But then she eggs on Jack because she goes, put the belt on me. That's what tips Lyra. And she hits that. And again, the German suplex. It's like Lyra is still like, she's not a pushover. You know what I mean? She's not that like smiling, poo eating grin. Happy to be here, Lyra. She's like, I'm over you. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of you. And I'm gonna show you what I can do physically.
Yeah. She might be in the running for my most improved because I mean when I do that award, I mainly
Yeah.
I mainly look at it as well who really not necessarily improved, but like sometimes I look at a wrestler, I'm like, well, how much did my opinion on them change, you know? And like you said, it's a slow sort of thing. It's not like making grand changes of opinion, but it's like through this feud with Becky, she's really kind of impressed me a bit, you know?
Yeah, like she was, boring. And I thought the weaker of the two options when Dakota and her were fighting to be the inaugural Intercontinental Champion,
Hmm.
And, now she's this person that has feelings and emotions and, strong opinions of the people she works with.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, sir, you are actually up 3 because of the Dominic match.
But we all said Dom. So, as far as the night goes, I'm two up.
Yeah. But yeah, that one, good match, you know. Nothing too
I
crazy to
also,
say
I
about it.
also also picked Becky because if she didn't win this, like, where do you go?
Yeah.
Where on earth do you go?
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. Definitely should have seen that one, but I don't know. I guess I've been pulling for Lyra, but like I said, come Evolution, I think they should do the triple threat. I think it would be pretty cool to do the triple threat first. And then especially because, you know, you could pivot from there and do Becky Bailey at SummerSlam, you know. Which
Yeah.
you have two
There's
nights to fill this year.
uh
You have 2 nights of SummerSlam to fill this year. Oh boy, who's ready for 2 nights of the Royal Rumble with each Rumble main eventing said night?
I'm tired just thinking about it.
Oh man. But from there, we move on to what normally would be the main event, and that is the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Or not that, you know, the men's Money in the Bank is always the main event, but like you would think one of the Money in the Banks would main event, but
Except, Jack, there is a tag team match that's still underway where both champions are going to be present. And I saw a lot of people online go, I don't understand. If they're not even defending their titles, why are they even on the show? Well, Jack, I mean, can you imagine if the person who wins this ladder match, which is going on before the championship tag team match, well, someone's going to be holding the briefcase, lording over that main event with potential and possibilities.
yeah. And I saw someone ask, well, if someone does cash in, is it just cashing in on the champion they select? What happens in a tag match? You know, because in a regular one-on-one match, it turns into a triple threat. What happens here? And I saw
Well,
someone proposing the
yeah,
idea that like, well, what if it turned into a fatal 5-way for whatever champion you were getting cashed in? I was like, that's just a huge complicated mess.
you know, in my mind, I created the much more straightforward narrative of they cash in after the end of the tag team match. But I made one fatal flaw that I will describe when we get to it. We are in the midst of a men's Money in the Bank ladder match with LA Knight, yeah, Andrade, C, El Grande Americano, gracias, Solo Sokoa, taking it all, um,
Penta.
Penta, Cero, Miedo, and Seth freaking Rollins.
Also, can I just say, the irreparable damage Seth Rollins cash in has done where now people think every cash in has to be in the middle of a match and not after a match like it typically was done.
Or called in advance, which, is great to do. Love to see it.
Yeah. But the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, Kind
And
of,
you know,
kind of similar to the women's one for me.
this one, yeah, I think I would put it over the women's one from this night. But you know, it was another like this one's almost worse in the sense that just like I was saying, I didn't feel like the women even tried to win. Some of these guys don't stand a chance. Your
I
dad picked El Grande Americano. See, my worry was that El Grande Americano could win and then I hate the idea, Jack, of using the money in the bank to cash in on any other title but the big ones. And I heard somebody postulate that El Grande Americano can cash in on El Hijo de Vikingo for the Mega Championship. I'm like, no, it's too close to reality. Oops, there goes gravity. WWE don't do that.
well, you want to know since I gave the logic for for the women, you want to know what the logic was for the men's behind my dad and I's pick?
Well, he picked El Grande Americano and you picked Seth, right?
Yeah, I picked Seth.
Tell me.
So I guess the way you could break down my dad's pick, and it really is a testament to this match and its participants, which no disrespect to a lot of these guys, because my dad definitely does like them, but do we realistically see WWE doing anything with any of these winning the Money in the Bank? You know, like no one wants Solo to win it. No one thinks Penta's gonna win it. No one thinks LA Knight is gonna win it. No one thinks Andrade is gonna win it. And I don't know. I forget what my dad's logic was against picking with Seth, but like his logic with El Grande Americano essentially was broken down to like I don't know. He's the one they're doing the most with right now with his story.
Touche. He pinned like AJ Styles.
Yeah. So it's like I guess he could see them doing something with him. My
So
dad will
Jack,
probably listen to this episode and inform me like what his true logic was, but that's just a rough summary off the top of my head that I can remember.
that's a good one.
Yeah. And then I just picked Seth because I was like, I'm pretty sure I was like he's the only one that like is an actual main eventer at the current moment.
I like because they've said, you know, if he wins, he's a 2-time Money in the Bank winner. I like that he'd have to live with the fact that the only other man to win this match twice was who, Jack?
CM Punk.
So it's funny that he has to like share this accomplishment. And Jack, the fatal flaw I made, sort of mapping out my predictions. I thought not only was Seth going to win, but he was going to cash in on Jey Uso. I forgot entirely, Jack, that Jay had a match with Gunther on Monday, and there's no way that anybody's going to cash in on Jay when Gunther's waiting in the wings in Phoenix, where I know you were with your big Yeet shirt.
Oh no. We'll talk about that world title match after this, but I will have to say I agree with your whole lack of urgency in this one, especially the finishing spot with all that stuff that happened one after the other. It really felt like that Ospreay swerve argument of like they're doing things for the sake of doing things. Like the
One thing, yeah, tell me.
the one thing that got me the most upset was LA Knight doing like the flip to El Grande Americano. He's holding his legs to like flip him into the ladder on the outside of the ring that's like propped up. And
Yes.
because there's no space ringside, it's so slow that El Grande Americano just basically stands up and slowly climbs the ladder to then bridge it and jump to the ladder that I forget who was. I think it was Seth. I think was on. I don't even remember who it was, but then he hits him with the headbutt. Oh, I think it was Penta. He hits him with the headbutt with the loaded mask, and it's just like it was such a slow sequence. It really had no urgency to it. I was like, I watched it and I was just like, that is awful right there. I was like, that was so awful. And like, I can't really blame them because it's like, again, they didn't have much room to work with on the outside. But it's like, if you see that, don't go through with the spot. Try and pivot.
It was awkward for sure. I like the headbutt. Actually, everything El Grande Americano did after he scaled the ring apron was great. But that setup, that springboard launch, awful. Um, I saw the post show, and Big E was like giving out awards for top performers, and he awarded a top performer to Jacob Fatu. He goes, he wasn't even in the match, but I got to give it to him because, tell you what, Jack, something that the match achieved was a big storyline progression for Jacob and Solo's relationship. They come out to help him because Seth's guys had come in. Bronson Reed, your shirt sake, and Braun Breaker. So we're going to even the odds. Here comes Jacob Fatu, and here comes JC Chazé, forget his name, and Jacob Fatu hit a Samoan drop on Bronson Reed, and it was like match. It was like move of the year.
Yeah.
Dang.
And then Solo starts climbing that ladder until he, for some reason, just can't move up any further. Like he keeps trying to pull himself up, but something's stopping him. And it is, in fact, Jacob Fatu who was grabbing onto his ankle. And Solo, I get what he was doing, but like it's also kind of funny to look at when you think of the whole lack of urgency thing. Like he's so slow to react and look, and his facial expressions are so funny.
Yeah.
And then, that's when Jacob Fatu hits him with the "I hate you" Solo. But yeah,
Super kick.
crowd goes crazy for that one.
Crowd goes crazy. When are we going to get their match? I don't know. Survivor Series and something.
Oh man. But yeah, like I mentioned about the final sequence, it was like so much was happening. Then Rollins guys come in, and then that Solo stuff happens. And then Rollins is climbing the ladder. He probably does something before that, like to stop someone from getting the briefcase. I don't remember. I just remember Rollins climbing. Pretty much everyone is down. And he retrieves the briefcase to become a 2-time Money in the Bank winner.
Before he retrieves it, he gives LA Knight the stankiest stomp. And I'm like, this guy can't catch a break. Third Money in the Bank match. I mean, what would he do with it after? Ugh. But I don't know. So one thing that came out of this that I am grateful for is on Monday, Bronson Reed's in a match. Not Bronson Reed, Braun Breaker, and LA Knight jumps him outside. He's seemingly coming after Seth and his boys for doing him dirty. I think they attacked him on Friday the night before. So, LA Knight's not completely forgotten about.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, just it's funny seeing the reactions to that because it's like so many people have been thinking I saw the logic because everyone's logic with Jay is being super over and all that. Everyone's like, LA Knight has worked with pretty much garbage since his call up, or not garbage. Garbage is harsh, but he's had to deal with some pretty inconsistent, sometimes terrible booking. And the man's remained over, and the man's done his best to do that work, and everyone's just like, what more does the guy have to do?
Honestly, there's a couple of guys like him that really are only suffering the cruel fate that there's a lot of main eventers. There's a lot of guys on the top of the card, and there's no room in the end.
Yeah.
Where was LA Knight in the 2010s, or your Jack Swaggers, or your Christians?
Yeah.
Sorry, Punk came back. Sorry, Cena's retiring. Sorry, Randy Orton healed up. Sorry.
Oh, man. Speaking of Cena.
Sorry, Drew's funnier.
Oh, I'm still waiting for Drew to get his moment, his true moment.
My deal with Drew is I just want these stories to end, and Like it looks like we got a definitive ending for the Drew versus Damian story at Saturday night's main event. Except I feel like Damian hasn't stopped bringing him up. So I beat Drew at the cage and put an end to it. And then like next week. So I put an end to the Drew thing through the cage. My man. Stop.
Oh man, I wonder where they go with him. Because you look at that main event scene and you're like, not really anything for you to do right now.
He put Jacob on notice. Jacob in the middle of his own thing, but he said he's coming after the U.S. title.
Interesting.
When? When?
A New Year's Revolution SmackDown episode. That's when.
Okay. Okay.
They're gonna not interact at all in the next 6 months until
Yeah.
that happens, and then Triple H is gonna take credit about like long-term storytelling and circling back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. But our main event is the tag match: John Cena and Logan Paul facing off against Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso. This was,
All that Rikishi wants to say about how they're booking Jay, being in a tag match and rubbing shoulders with everybody involved in this match, I think it's great. Like, John Cena is the biggest deal of them all. Cody Rhodes is the most recent big deal. Logan Paul is a mainstream big deal. Jey Uso's literally none of those things. But here he is, standing shoulder to shoulder with all of them. This is the best place for him to be.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this match, sir?
It was a tag match involving four people who aren't known for their Will Ospreay, Swerve Strickland dynamic moveset.
Yeah, it's funny. One of the reviews I read, it used the word. This match was methodical.
That means they practiced it in Puerto Rico.
Could have just simply said the match was slow. I'll never get why they. The use of the word methodical has lost its meaning in terms of wrestling terminology, because now it's just become a way for people to avoid saying, yeah, the match was kind of slow. They want to use it in place to be like, to make it sound greater than it is,
Yeah.
I think I talked about it in the Backlash episode because of Orton. I was like, they love saying Orton wrestles a methodical style, but really what they mean is he wrestles a slow-paced match.
I don't know when it happened, Jack, but you got to give the devil his due. Cena's been on every single PLE this year, and it's crazy to fathom. The man shows up, does what he does, and I'm like, dang, how could you even be mad at that? That's why they're still cheering him.
Yeah.
Even though he's trying to ruin wrestling. I like the Logan Paul, I'm going to ruin wrestling. I like Logan Paul standing next to him, oblivious to the insults that are implied that he being successful at this thing would ruin this thing that he joined.
I guess we could just call out the main spots since it wasn't really a match to discuss.
Certainly.
There is the main spot where Logan Paul is recording on a phone or camera or whatever.
It's a drone, Jack. He plucks from the sky.
Oh, I didn't even see that part. That's how disinterested I was. But yeah, he uses that, gets caught in a suplex by Cody, and then hit with a splash by Jay. And
Splash caught me by surprise.
yeah, that one caught me by surprise. But I did see some people, in regards to the whole urgency matter that we brought up with the two ladder matches, they were like,
Yeah.
why did it just seem like Logan accepted his fate of being suplexed? There was no fight to it. There was no, struggle. He just, let me record myself getting hit with the suplex.
I don't know what his plan was when you mentioned that. Like, was he going to record himself doing something else?
Yeah, but the splash made up for it because even though you kind of knew it might be
The
coming, it
splash,
was like it
yeah.
was out of nowhere enough that like it really looked good.
You know what? And Logan did that thing he does. He hit that moonsault off the rope onto Jay onto that table. Any way you slice it, that was rough.
Yeah, and then that just ended up leaving Cena and Cody in the ring to fight. Cena was gonna try and use his title, and then someone in all black comes in and attacks Cena.
No one attempts to stop him.
Yeah,
And actually, you know what's funny, Jack? I want to remember this. Whenever we're having one of those run of the mill matches where nothing stands out and it's what did you say, methodical?
methodic.
Just like the Lyra Becky match, they do that because the thing you're supposed to remember and internalize, it's what happens at the end. Like, oh, this is a real box standard. Ah, must be a thing that's happening at the end. Here we are, Jack. A thing happened at the end. Who's our man in this balaclava?
I called it immediately. It is our truth.
What? Triple H is cooking. He's cooking. This was the plan all along. Ignore that R2 tweet that he says it wasn't.
He gets the title, hits Cena with it, and then Cody comes in and look at him. He's setting it up. You already know this is John Cena we're talking about. Big name. Even with the title shot, you're going to need a lot to take this man down. You might need 3 crossroads to put him down. He puts him down with 1 crossroad.
Dang.
It takes 1 crossroads to put John Cena and AJ Styles down, but you need 3 to beat a guy like Logan Paul.
I mean, he was hit in the face with a 20-pound gold belt.
Okay, but we know if this was 2010 and that was Cena, he's kicking out at 2.
But it's 2025 and the man's pushing 50. His hair plugs are falling out.
Oh, man. But, yep. Surprise, surprise. Cody gets the pinfall victory on Cena, giving the baby faces the win.
You say it's a surprise, Jack, but a historian will tell you that in 2023, Jey Uso pinned the reigning champion Roman Reigns at Money in the Bank. And in 2024, Solo Sikoa pinned the reigning champion, it's Cody Rhodes at Money in the Bank.
I don't even remember that one.
I saw a post about it, lifting that observation and that pattern.
I totally forgot that solo tag match even happened.
Our first introduction to WWE, Jacob Fatu.
Oh, that's right.
I think it involved the worst low blow ever in the history of ever by Tongaloa.
Oh, man.
But here comes Seth with the briefcase and he's cashing in. Oh my God, what a way to cap off a mediocre night with something exciting. He did it, but you know what he did do, Jack? He matched his suit to the case. And I'm like, the right man won. Big old karma good villain that he is. He's going to do right by that case. Yeah. He should come out with different colored cases.
That would be a good one. That would be good. But that ends off the night. All 3 of us got that match wrong because we fully expected Cena and Logan Paul to win.
You're right.
If you were keeping score, that means my dad leaves with 1 point on the night. I leave with 2 points. And Mr. Solis had himself a night leaving with 4 points.
On a 5-match card. Pow, 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 pow.
That puts myself at 13 points on the year, my dad at 12, and Mr. Solis building himself a lead with 15 points on the year.
You ain't never going to see me again. Taking off.
Oh, man. Rumble really messed up my dad and I because we didn't get any points for that. Wait, hold on. What were we picking Cody to win? What was Cody's match at Rumble?
Kevin Owens. The one where he Alabama slammed him into the ladder. He defended his title.
Okay, maybe I need to recalculate the points. Maybe my dad and I got it. Or, I think I didn't count that because I didn't get your predictions for said matches, and that's why I didn't count it because I only got your Rumble predictions on that night.
Ah,
So that's where the okay, yeah. So
I like
only counting the
Seth,
Rumbles, my dad and I didn't get no points that night.
I like Seth Rollins, the architect, sneak in a win.
I still will never get over night 2 of Mania that all of us did so terribly.
Ali.
Literally, the only ones any of us got right was EO retaining and Cena winning the title. The rest of
Yeah,
night 2 was just all misses.
golly.
My dad had himself a night at Backlash getting all 5 correct.
Yeah, yeah. That's when I like, I don't know, found myself like guessing with my heart, not my brain.
But man, that
I'm like,
caps off
Orton's not gonna win.
Money in the Bank for us.
There, did you see Raw? Well, what were your overall feelings about Money in the Bank? I heard your brother's feelings. I've made my feelings known. I told a buddy at work. He says, "What do you think of Money in the Bank?" And I said, "Because it was in L.A. I'm not mad that I didn't go."
I had the same feeling basically of just it was all right, but nothing worth writing home about.
No,
If I was
you
in
know,
LA and I paid money to go see that show, I would have been upset that I spent that money, especially because WWE shows aren't cheap.
no to go. No, it's astronomical. It's frustratingly astronomical. I watched the post show. And the only thing that got me to watch the post show was I wanted to see any kind of information, updates about the R Truth thing. You know, I
Mm,
wanted to see what they would do with that. What did they do, Jack? They only gave me a gosh darn headache with the way Triple H handled that question. I mean, my man, if you don't like people picking apart this stuff, quit doing post show conferences. Honest to God, what are we trying to do?
yeah.
Don't
Honestly,
try to tell me that show was a sellout. That show had empty seats, my man. They were empty, Jack, for the first match. I think it's because people were actually still migrating to the event. I think they definitely filled out. There was a shot with the briefcase, and behind it, a wall of empty seats, Jack. And I swear, at the exact same moment, Michael Cole's like, "This is a sellout." I'm like, "Stop lying." But Triple H, you gonna do that to those kind of questions? Stop doing these stupid things.
yeah. Honestly, it's the one thing like that I hold against AEW because they're the ones that started this whole trend of oh let's
Mm-hmm.
do interviews after because you know they want to have this like it's both companies they want to have this sports feel to it you know having
Yeah,
real media come in and ask them questions except they don't want real questions asked they want kayfabe stuff asked so it's like if that's what you want take the New Japan route and just have it be backstage recorded stuff that you can, you know, edit around. Have just the guys
yeah.
come in like they do in New Japan or Stardom, you know, where they go backstage, they talk to the camera, you know, as if like a
You-
question was posed to them. Like they never outright asked the question, but they come in with a promo that's basically answering a question that people have, you know, or that the question they want to focus around from the match or event.
And in the background, Jack, you have someone making the sounds of camera flashes. But like, you ever notice that you always hear the camera flashes? Jack, we've never seen them photos. No one's ever publishing photos of those backstage interviews from different angles. It's just shutters.
You
Um,
just picture like the members of the roster just back there making the noises.
Jack, they want to feel like they're more like sports because that's what they do. Jack, sports don't want those things either. I've seen basketball players and football players and people going, "I hate this, I hate you, and I'm only doing this because they're making me."
Marshawn Lynch, I'm only here so I don't get fined.
Jack, if I can pick your brain about Raw, there's a few. Did you see Raw?
Yeah, I caught the highlights.
Did you see the R Truth promo?
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
It's interesting, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to buy into it when you know he's been given a new contract by the company due to like reporting, you know. And like the only reason I say that is because like it kind of reminds me of when Punk won the title from Cena at Money in the Bank, and there was this whole, you know, oh my gosh, he's gonna take the title away from the company.
Uh
Except
huh.
we know WWE would never allow that, you know, so like it kind of killed any sort of like belief in that storyline, you know.
I see.
So it's like it kind of a similar thing where I'm like, I do like this character and I do think he has a lot of input on it, you know, given the promos. But at the end of the day, we also know it's like the company's trying to cover their tracks on a very I don't even know like what's the way to describe it, but a situation that really bit them in the foot, you know.
Oh, 100%. I hear you, Jack. Like he's trying to be like Dark State in NXT, but like they have their own music and they're on the website, and you're obviously employees for this company that you obviously work for. Like there's no invasion, right? So one thing that I didn't get that, you know, he's like, I definitely came back, but he like is not our truth. You know, he's gonna do this Ron Killings thing. And he's I to me just as unhinged or just as unpredictable, but he's not as funny, you know?
Mm, true.
And he combated the things that people say. But what he said, Jack, was exactly verbatim what John Cena had said earlier tonight. So, like you said or implied, I don't know where you go with this because I don't think you go after John Cena. I think that would be amazing. That's exactly what I would want to do. But I don't see them doing that. But
Yeah.
um, but the best part of it, Jack, the whole thing was great. The whole thing was amazing. I loved when they start wetting him. He goes, "I wish you would." Like he was gonna slap every single person in the face, but what he did, Jack, cut his braids, and like something that like I don't take for granted when I can catch myself. He got that whole arena to chant a holy chant, and all he did was cut his braids. That's a thing that they'll chant. Somebody falls off a ladder, off a building, off a bridge. He did three things. He cut three braids, and he got that arena to chant and react. And you saw the faces. Jack, you can't pay people to do that, covering their mouths and putting their hands on their heads and going, "Why, Ron? Why?" And he said, like a built-in catchphrase on the truth, the whole truth, and they all know how it ends. And he says, "You're gonna put some respect on my name, Jack. I want him in the King of the Ring. I want him to win King of the Ring. I want him to challenge Cena at night 2 of SummerSlam."
Yeah.
Dang.
That's kind of like the similar line of thinking I saw people bringing up. Because, like you said, it's like, where do they go from here? They're clearly not going to go with him versus Cena, especially because it's like Cena beat him in 5 minutes, and then you had him get beat up by who wasn't it? Jeff Cobb's new name. I forget his name, but like you got him beat up on SmackDown, and then that was the last we saw of him before he got brought back. You know, it's like
Yeah.
don't really
Got
see
to
them
be
going that
Ron
direction.
Killings versus Nick Khan.
Oh
All
man,
right, Jack. A random, raw take that I need from you right now, Jack. Did you see the promo between Cena and Punk?
yes.
What'd you think?
Like I told my dad, even as much as Cena's run isn't the greatest right now, you're never getting me to cheer for CM Punk.
Okay.
No, but I liked a lot. The one thing I really liked, because he's a big nerd, I like that he did the callback to their promos in 2011 when he told them, if you're more Boston Red Sox than you are New York Yankee.
Yeah.
I really liked that one.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. Jack, like Cena comes on and does his thing, and I'm like, yeah, this again. Then CM Punk comes out and does his thing, and things have elevated. I went from yeah to yeah. And Jack, I can't tell you. Like Jack, I made an audible sound. You know how when you LOL a text message, but you didn't actually LOL? Jack, I made a sound. I made a verbal, visceral reaction, and I thought of you immediately. I text you immediately when John Cena told CM Punk to his face, if you want this championship match, you'll have to, quote, follow me to Saudi Arabia. I fell off my couch. That was the heelish thing that man's done since he killed Cody Rhodes at Elimination Chamber. He said, what you gonna do now? Your balls in your court, hero.
Yeah, that was amazing because it's like,
Golly, Jack. Like, Jack, December, when we start talking about our top 10 matches, I'm going to talk about the John Cena CM Punk promo from June 9th.
oh man, yeah. If that actually happens, that's pretty cool. It's ironic that it's going to take place at Night of Champions.
It's going to be in Saudi Arabia. They need a match card for it. And all the memes, Jack, have already started. All of the Simpson memes where, like, they have that tweet from CM Punk that he wrote to The Miz, that blood-soaked tweet, remember?
Mm-hmm.
And they got Lisa going, I told him that was going to come and haunt him later. Or the Krusty the Clown one where he's on his knees in front of Bart going, they drove a truckload of money right up to my house.
Oh man, old Phil.
Jack, the last Raw take I need from you, Gunther versus Jey Uso. What did you think?
I'm glad. I'm glad Gunther won it back. I know there's so many people online that don't like him. The large majority of the WWE fan base doesn't get him. And I don't blame them because of the way that they booked that first world title reign. I wouldn't be upset with you guys if a lot of the WWE fan base and a lot of the newer fan base didn't get why so many people enjoy Gunther. But it's like just a year before, we were all enthralled with his work with the IC title. So it's like you see what the peaks can be when he gets booking that understands him, you know? So it's like I just hope for a lot better this second. I hope, and it's funny I say this because of how much I was bringing up that people haven't been enjoying the way he's been booking her as of late because she hasn't wrestled as much and she hasn't defended the title yet. But I hope that this Gunther reign, this new one, can hopefully be what this EO reign has looked like at the start of it. It hasn't looked as much of it like now, but, you know, because the way I looked at it, I was like, you remember, she won that WWE title, the women's title, and it really felt like a trial run because she had a big moment. She didn't really do too much with it, you know, like it really felt like everything was building towards the eventual Bayley match, so everything in between just kind of felt fillerish, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas like this one, it's like this one with the world title, women's world title, it's felt a lot better, you know? It's like the big surprise shock when she beats Rhea on Raw, the build up to the triple threat, which is one of the best matches of the year. She was having a lot of interesting stuff, like I mentioned, with Stephanie, Julia, Roxanne, and all that, you know. We're hoping that she can get back to wrestling more, you know, and doing a lot more. But, like, that's what I'm looking at this Gunther reign as, like, let's hope this second one is using the first one as a trial run to improve upon and build upon to make this one work.
I agree, hoping for the best. Something else that works against Gunther that happened in the first reign was that even though he was the heavyweight champion, he was, like I mentioned with LA Knight, like the sixth most important person on the show with CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, John Cena, Randy Orton, Pat McAfee. You know what I mean? Like when Raw hit Netflix, like Gunther was mid card of his own show. You know, like I think about the Reign of Terror, Triple H. Triple H would open a show, end the show, and be all up in the middle. And like Gunther his character doesn't care for the attention. You know, he wanted vengeance against Jey. He wanted to right the wrong of his loss at WrestleMania. That was a good motivation, right? Like, and I honestly thought that the match was better than the WrestleMania match, which I don't think is going too far to say. Like, I definitely enjoy this match is what that other match should have been.
Yeah. And I do, I don't agree with it, but I do like the story point that someone brought up that Jay can say he didn't tap, but he let
Yes,
Gunther tap.
100 million%. I caught on to that too, Jack. That like, and for people who got all worked up that Gunther did, one, a grown man splashed him 3 times before he put on the chokehold. So like, he could have been out of breath. But two, he also could be the cowardly guy that doesn't want to pass out in front of 70,000 people. Jay passed out. A valiant WrestleMania 13 Stone Cold babyface thing to do.
Yeah.
But I didn't think about Gunther. I'm thinking all these cash-ins are going to happen. So now, does Seth start teasing or threatening Gunther? Or, I don't know. Maybe the LA Knight jumping Braun Breaker will actually distract Seth so that he's not in the midst of either title, which is being held by a heel. Maybe he's like, I don't know, beating up LA Knight before something happens.
Yeah. And
Imagine, Jack.
I can tie in some stuff I've seen online to like try and work around like Seth being Money in the Bank champion or champion Money in the Bank holder. One that I've seen, which I'm not really the biggest fan of this fantasy booking because it's like we're kind of rehashing something that was already done, even if it happened 10 years ago now, like 10 plus years ago now. But the one I've seen people say is, oh, Sammy wins King of the Ring. He goes to face Gunther at SummerSlam. He beats him, only to get cashed in on by Rollins to ruin his moment, a la Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, John Cena.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. I don't mind it, but it's like, it's kind of been done, but at the same time, it's been 10 plus years.
Jim Cornette said you can do anything after 7.
Yeah, I was going to say, what is it in the world, in the law world, the stature of limitations?
Yeah.
Like, you want to think of the wrestling equivalent of that. It's been a decade. We could do it all over again.
I think Jim Cornette's math only applies to like the pre-internet territory days. Like, whether it's 7 years or 10 years, our memories are a lot better because things are archived and easily looked up. I had it in my head canon that Seth cashes in on Punk after Punk beats Cena.
Mm.
Can you imagine? He flew all the way to Saudi Arabia just to get one-upped by Seth freaking Rollins.
Man. And speaking of which, because I brought it up, King and Queen of the Ring are happening.
Yes, sir.
King and Queen of the Ring is supposed to be this tournament of endurance. Why are we doing fatal 4-way matches? Where is the endurance in this? I get facing 3 other people is a lot more competitive, but it's like but then again, the endurance factor is eliminated when you're taking weeks in between the matches one after the other, so it's like there is no real endurance because it's like you're not fighting match after match, so maybe fatal 4-way is more endurance based, but it's like fatal 4-ways. That's what we're doing for a tournament is opening rounds, fatal 4-ways, 2 semifinals matches, and then a finals match.
My cynical brain harkens to the fact that Money in the Bank qualifiers were triple threats. So, like, this is slightly different, right? Gets a lot of people involved. Progressive stories like Rusev and Sheamus, Mello and Aleister Black. And then also, these multi-man matches, they're this nice little safeguard because we're going to pin somebody and there are other people who are going to lose without getting pinned. I'm looking at you, Mello.
Who do you think is going to be the to be announced in that Sheamus, Rusev, Bronson Reed match?
It's interesting. It's funny because there's a lot of people it could be that I want it to be. I want it to be Karrion Kross. I wouldn't mind if it was R-Truth. Do you have any thoughts?
People think Ilya might return.
That would be interesting. I'm not as big on him as everyone else. He's like little and I don't know. He's little. I'm like, I don't get him. It's funny. He's the male Lyra Valkyria, and I know they got called up at the same time, but they occupy the same space in my brain, which is like, I don't get it.
I wouldn't be upset with Sammy winning, though. I think that could be an interesting storyline. I did see
Yeah,
someone say that they don't want Sammy's first world title reign on the main roster to be like that short. You know, like Seth cashes in on it after. Like they want it to be a big moment, but it's like I don't know. Daniel Bryan's big win was still a big moment. I get it. He had a world title run before that, but it's like him winning the true big one at the time. It was like it didn't feel any less because he had a 1 minute reign after beating Cena at SummerSlam. You know, so it's like they could still go that route. You know.
it's funny that you compare him to Daniel Bryan, and I appreciate the analogy, and I think it's an accurate one. But do you know who my buddy Joe refers to Sami Zayn as?
Hmm.
He calls him a poor man's Mick Foley.
I could
And
see
then
that
if
one
we
too.
and Mick Foley is also a guy who went pretty far into his career without the big one, and when he won the big one, we were all excited for it. But do you know how long he held it for, Jack?
I want to say less than a month because I remember he lost it at Royal Rumble.
I know he won it in January, early January. He definitely doesn't carry it into WrestleMania, so he doesn't hold it for long.
Yeah. And then the women's one, I'm at a complete loss of who I think is even winning that. I think if
No,
someone wins it from Raw on the King of the Ring side, then you're thinking maybe someone from SmackDown.
I've heard that. I've heard people like apply that logic.
Maybe Jade. I don't know.
Hmm. And then Naomi cashes in because she's a dastardly meanie.
Yeah. Definitely going to be interesting to see where they go, especially because Evolution is coming up. All women's card there. And then SummerSlam is after that. And then looking outside the wrestling world, um, the G1's going to start up sometime soon in the summer.
I wondered if you were actually still in the wrestling world. I'm like, what do you mean? Marvel's Fantastic Four? Is that where you're going?
No, G1's
You
going to be
mean
starting. And then the one I was trying to remember, All In.
all
Or
in?
Y'all In, because it's in Texas.
Y'all in because it's in Texas.
My brother and I could have been there for Let the Bodies Hit the Floor at Double or Nothing, but it's too new of a place. I don't know how to deal with it.
You just jump in, Jack, head first. Boom. That's what adventure is.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest. Ever since last year, I was tempted to make the fly out to Texas, but I was like, I don't know.
You don't know until you try.
Well, I do know it's not wrestling related. Oscar and I have been talking about going to the World Baseball Classic in Miami next year, 2026.
Oh yeah, what's that?
Um, Basically, baseball's World Cup.
Ah,
Each like a lot of different countries form their teams. A lot of people are putting a lot of anticipation into the U.S. forming a super squad since the previous one in 2023. They they had some pretty star-studded names on the offense, but pitching they barely had anyone because all the owners were like, we don't want our star pitchers getting injured before the season starts.
no, I get that.
Yeah, so Oscar and I were talking about that. Like, man, if we could get tickets, I'd be down to make the trip out. I had never flown. I've flown like once, but it's like I've never traveled anywhere. So it's like I'd be interested in doing that to go watch an amazing World Baseball Classic because a lot of these nations' teams are looking great. Like Mexico has a pretty formidable squad. Japan won the last one because of Otani. Uh,
Uh,
there's another one. I think it's the Dominican Republic is forming like a really good team. I think Cuba as well. Like there's a lot of interesting countries putting out some of their best players. So Oscar and I were talking
nice.
about that. But yeah, I definitely was tempted to go to All In Texas because I was like, that one looks real interesting. I a part of me still thinks about it like it's a month away, and I'm like, they haven't put that schedule in for July. I have money saved
Mm.
up, but it's like because I think about all I think about is the potential closing image of All In being Hangman, beating the John Moxley, putting an end to this Death Rider storyline. Confetti flying down as he opens that stupid briefcase to finally reveal the world title that's been in hiding all this time.
That would be an amazing end to their biggest show of like ever. My fear is that Moxley beats Hangman, the last cowboy in Texas, has that briefcase firmly in his grasp when you hear from the distance this like Danzig ripoff song. And then from the sky in that open stadium, you could see on a parachute all the way from the Mount Everest is Darby Allin on a skateboard, slowly descending into the ring, into a crossbody on Moxley.
I like Darby, but it's just like the man chose what was more important to him. So to
Everything
me,
would have worked out if he didn't break his foot the first time.
yeah. So I'm just like, I'm sorry, but Hangman has been putting in amazing work. You're just gonna have to wait your turn yet again, you know, because it feels like we've been saying for the longest time since AEW's inception that Darby is gonna win it, and it's like, I don't know, man. You chose Mount Everest over the world title. Like, it's gonna be kind of tough for the fans to want you to win that title over
Yeah,
Hangman, who's been putting in this amazing character work, you know.
he should come in as a heel, align with the Young Bucks for no reason. Yes.
Also, I just want to let it be known this is completely random. I mean, it has a tie-in to All In, but this is completely random. But I want it here as physical evidence of it being my idea. I still have the screenshot of when I wrote this idea down originally, but I'm bringing it up now because they're going to be at the Rangers Stadium. It's a baseball field. Back when he was a face, and because he used Wild Thing, and because of the movie Major League with Wild Thing, you know, and using that song, I had proposed that they should have some type of match, and the big spot of that match, whether he was taken out, like, because I was thinking maybe like Anarchy in the Arena type match happening in such a big stadium. I was like,
Yeah.
it would be a cool visual and a little bit cheesy, you know, but it would be a cool visual if, like, let's say they took out Moxley before the match, the heels are winning the match. Like, this is when Moxley was a face. I was like, it would be a cool visual if Wild Thing starts playing and you see him making his way out of the bullpen like a closer to come in and close a game. You just see him making his entrance out of the bullpen, a la Major League and the Wild Thing.
I get it. I think that would be pretty cool. I didn't know where you were going with that, but I'm with you.
But of course, they can't do it because Moxley decides he wants to be this heel that it's real. Like, I hate that people are trying to already have revisionist history with this and making it seem like it's this great big story just because of the potential of Hangman beating him and all in. And it's like, that doesn't change what the first half of this storyline was with the Death Riders, which was awful.
I told you, Jack, about how many WWE storylines are very similar to the AEW storylines, and then that in that observation, I think WWE does them all better.
I think you brought it up before, yeah.
So as you bring up like Moxley's like frustrating approaches to the belt and to wrestling and his motivations, right? I feel like John Cena succinctly put it a lot better when he's just like, I'm going to ruin wrestling for all of you. He's like, I'm going to take this belt with me home. You'll have a toy in its replacement, and I'm the last real world champion. Like, I feel like that's everything Moxley tried to do, but better.
Not only that, but I always bring, I feels like I bring this up so often, but because it's such a niche world title reign in the grand scheme of wrestling, because though Stardom is like popular, you probably call them right now Japan's #1 women's wrestling company, you know? Not a lot of people still know about it, but I always bring it up. Kagetsu and Stardom with her red belt reign, doing what Moxley's trying to do right now, but much, much better. Because her whole motive was, the current state of this company and its talent is not to the level it should be. I'm holding this world title captive. If you don't like it, beat me. You know, like if you don't like the style of wrestling I'm doing, if you don't like, how I'm reigning this terror over the promotion, step up and prove that you can beat me. Because it's not just I'm using my heel faction to beat you guys. I'm such a dominant wrestler that if you really want to beat me, someone of this younger generation needs to prove me wrong, that that the future is indeed bright, and that things aren't going to be a disaster when some of the big names retire. Prove me wrong by beating me, prove me wrong. And like it feels like that's what Moxley's kind of initial motive was like, hey, AEW isn't in a good place right now. I need this company to start improving,
Yeah.
and though my methods are heelish, it's for the betterment of this company. But then it's like it didn't really build upon that. It didn't really do it effectively versus this world title run where it really felt like the best version compared to this Moxley run right now, where it's just like Kagetsu is like, I'm doing this for the betterment of this company and its future talent. And what especially played into it was the real life aspect that she was actually, the Kagetsu was involved with the training of like Stardom's talents, the training of new trainees that were looking to join the promotion. Like she was directly involved in it, so you understood why they had such passion for this motive of like, we're not in a good place. I need reassurance that things are going to be fine, because they ended up retiring, I think, a couple years later. Like I remember, I think the beginning of 2020, I think is when Kagetsu retired, maybe 2019. So
Yeah.
like it really, especially in hindsight, it added to that whole story, because it's like they knew eventually they were going to retire, so they wanted that reassurance that things were going to be fine. And like, if you had played more into that with Moxley and done a lot more of him being involved with the younger talent, the talents that we've been told are the future for the past 4 years and haven't stepped up, versus him defending the title against 50-year-old Adam Copeland, it's like there was a lot more to improve upon if that's what Moxley's motive was.
And but it's too noble motivation. He's got to be, sinister and cowardice and what's the word? Greedy.
Yeah. It's
By the way,
improved.
what are AEW's homegrown talent doing? MJF's pretending to be in the member of the Hurt Business. I heard somebody say he's like Sammy in the Bloodline. I'm like, this is nothing like Sammy in the Bloodline in the absolute least.
all
Who else?
four of the supposed pillars are nowhere on TV except for, actually no, all four of them. Yeah, none of them were on TV. Darby's climbing Mount Everest. Sammy is in Ring of Honor. Jack Perry's doing woodcrafting.
Yeah, metal work.
Yeah, and MJF's involved with the Hurt Business. It's like, oh man. You look at some of the other ones. Daniel Garcia had a decent TNT title reign, but nothing to write home about. Nothing that really built upon his development and story arc. A lot of the AEW originals aren't involved with Moxley until this recent time, which is why it's improved a lot, because guys like Hangman and Omega, AEW originals, were getting involved with him.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. Like, I fear that Tony Khan's going to be stubborn like Triple H and want Darby to be the payoff to this finish. But it's like, I sincerely hope, circling back to the reason this whole rant began, I sincerely hope the closing image is Hangman winning that title.
What if the closing image, Jack? What if the closing image, Moxley beats Hangman? Or should Hangman beat Moxley? For the purposes of this diatribe, Moxley beats Hangman. A state mourns. And then out of nowhere, comes the most devastating shoulder tackle that people call a spear that anyone's ever seen. It's Braun Breaker, Jack. He takes out Moxley with that clothesline of a spear he does because it's all neck. Hoo hoo hoo. Then here comes Tsunami, Jack. Here comes Bronson Reed to collapse onto John Moxley, and they've taken out all the Death Riders. And then here comes Mr. Money in the Bank. And he tells that referee, it doesn't say which champion I can cash this in on. And see, curb stomp, pedigree, 1, 2, 3. Seth Rollins is the AEW heavyweight champion, and the crowd goes, how could we have a possibility worse than this Moxley run?
You know, when you were saying about a different ending, I thought you were going to say that the women's title match main events, and we have to see Mercedes Moné holding 6 belts to close the show.
Jack, I didn't even ask you about Mariah May.
Oh, yeah, she made the jump.
Jack, how did they let her get away? She was a part of one of my top 10 matches of the year, feud of the decade. What the heck happened, Jack?
Well, when you go through her Twitter history and you see how much of a big fan she's been of the WWE, you slowly realize, oh yeah, there was nothing they could do. She was gone the minute that contract expired.
Wow.
Oh, man.
So you're saying Toni Storm versus Mercedes Moné, main events the big show. Toni Storm, no, it'll be Mercedes. She wins, and then Tsunami.
Have you seen, again, this is no disrespecting, because I think they're going to put on a good story, but it's like, it depends on the direction they go with the match. People talking about Omega and Okada main eventing, and I'm just like, Omega and Okada in the big 2025. Like, not even if they go with the great story that, like, they should go, because I've been seeing people say, like, you know they're not going to be able to do what they did in the past. You got to do a different story. Oh. And they've shown that that's where they're going with the whole angle they did this past Wednesday of, like, Omega's a man who almost died. Like, he's a very different wrestler, you know? And then I hate Don Callis getting involved in this, but it makes sense in the sense of, like, Okada's being, like, very insecure in the sense that he's, like, he still wants to feel like he's the best wrestler in the world, but his performances in the past, especially getting, I have to bring it up, it might make the top 10, it might just miss out on it because it was really Mike Bailey carrying him in that match. But Mike Bailey really carried him in their Continental match to the point where everyone was like Okada turns it up at the end and everyone's like, oh, see, you know, Okada just knows when to turn it up. I'm like, I don't know. He was getting outclassed by Bailey in like the first 75% of the match. So it's like he's really giving off this like insecurity type character of like, I believe I'm the best in the world, but like it really seems like I'm coasting and not in a good way of like, oh, I'm so good I can just coast. It's more of a I'm coasting off my star power and name, but I'm having a couple of close encounters, and now one of my biggest rivals of the past is now challenging me, you know, and we're two different people. So it's like I get Callis playing into that to try and help him, like, not feel insecure. So it's like,
yeah,
they have a good story to go with if they play into that more than let's try and replay the classics and act like these men are still in their prime and can give us what they gave us in 2017.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know, when I see people talking about it main eventing, I'm like, guys, it's not 2017. This is a different Omega. This is a different Okada.
And they can't do a Cena Orton. Cena Orton gave us exactly what they did in 11, but what they did in 2011 was reproducible.
Yeah, so it's like, to me, it's Hangman or nothing going into this pay-per-view. It's like, I
know what can main event All In. The Hurt Business versus Paragon.
Oh my gosh. A lot of wrestling to look forward to, though.
Yes, sir.
I think more than likely we'll end up covering All In. So we might not count it towards my dad. Maybe I'll see if he wants to get in on predictions for that one too. If we do end up covering it, but
Yeah,
if
or
we
should our predictions be exclusive to the WWE?
maybe we'll do little side ones, not necessarily counting towards the overall score, but like for example, you and I always throw out our predictions for the G1, so it's like
Yes.
we can do that one on the side, not count it towards, Same thing with the AEW ones. We could throw in some predictions.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. Definitely a lot to look forward. It's always the summertime where things ramp up
Hey,
in the.
hey, I know what you're angling for, Jack. You want to get as many predictions from as many different promotions as possible because you got a gap to fill. You got some ground to make up. I'm gonna leave you in the dust, my man.
Oh man, well you're starting to build that sizable lead, especially with this terrible performance from my dad and I.
Hey, Mr. Sleaze, you gonna watch GCW Over the Hill or whatever they're doing?
You're gonna see me hit you with a, "Hey, Mr. Solis, are you gonna watch this random promotion in Arizona?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You gonna watch AZW?
Or no, the best one, no, the best thing I can pull. Hey, Mr. Solis, what are your predictions for this new Japan show that you're months behind on, but you don't know it because you haven't been really keeping up? So I know the results and can give you my predictions.
That hurt so much. That's too real.
It reminds me of whoa, what show is it? I think it was Full House, where like he's telling them his like predictions of what's gonna happen in the Lakers game, and then that's where
Yeah.
like the little girl comes in and was like, "Hey, you weren't able to predict those things earlier when we were watching this game," and then he finds out he's able to predict all of it because it was pre-taped. So that's just what I'm doing to you with like the new Japan shows. Like, hey, Mrs. Lees, what are your predictions on this show that happened yesterday? So I know who won, but to avoid spoilers, you don't even know this show's happened yet.
Hot in 4K.
Hey, all I know is if Takesha's in that G1 again, you know where I'll be.
Ooh, buddy. Oh, buddy.
Look, I get it. New Japan, they're gonna try and position their own in-house talent as the next people,
Yeah.
but all I'm saying is Konosuke Takeshita, Hiroki Goto, Wrestle Kingdom. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying, shut up and take my money.
But any final thoughts, sir?
Had a good time, as always, sir. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, always a good time, especially when now with no time limits, we can throw in this extra wrestling talk. But overall, some great stuff from the wrestling world and a lot to look forward to in the future. But as always, I've been Jack, joined by Mr. Solis. Thank you all for joining for this episode, and we'll catch you on the next one.